The Aussie NFL Fantasy Show would like to acknowledge the traditional land owners and the leaders past, present and emerging of Ngunnawal, Ngambri and Darawal countries where we are working from today. This always was, and always will be, Aboriginal land.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
Michael and Jake
What's the count of my Zach Wilson jokes on this podcast? Must be high. Must be
over under 26.5.
Definitely.
If you do a highlights package, you have to do a Zach Wilson one.
That'll take you all week trying to work that out.
Will.
Aussie NFL Fantasy.
Oh no, that's
And it's
not
all right
good.
if you're Zach Wilson taking on 3 months, but
Oh, okay, all right.
You're a buff player.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
The O-line will literally not look for him. They'll let
all
him
Zach
die.
Wilson's delivering his STDs, mate.
Speaking of which, I'm just going to post a photo to the group.
Yeah. No, you've already snookered me on some detail earlier today, mate. I'm not getting done twice.
I've rattled myself again.
In today's busy world, it's hard to have it all. Who has time to do all the analysis and decision making for your fantasy team? Probably not you, but we can help. Whether it's positively diagnosing players with fantasy leprosy, or helping you find the players who are on the verge of being fantasy legendary. There's only one name in all of fantasy you can really trust. Make an appointment with Dr GoodCall.
Whoa, let's go. It is Dr. GoodCall for week 16. Whoever thought we would get this far without getting cancelled, Doctor? Welcome into the show.
I don't know if anyone else heard that, but I just heard Matty C call James Conner Jesus Christ. So, look, that's straight out of his mouth. So, he's the one that said it, not me.
You know that's not making the show.
That's big cut.
You know I'm not going to expose myself to that.
I was just waiting for you to just, bring me in again. Just something different.
Just be like, so, Dr. GoodCall, welcome back.
Oh, what a start.
All right. 3, 2, 1, edit. Yeah. Shoot. I was not ready for that. What a wild start to the segment already. And of course, we've got Manjot, who joins us every week as well from the Pastry Press NFL. Do not miss the pastry show. That's already up. Go get it. There's 100 great pastries, and most of them go to Brock Purdy. So we love that.
Yeah.
Got that big energy.
Big Brock energy.
Yeah, that big Brock energy.
Yeah.
Just picked him up in content team.
He
In case
did,
anyone
dude.
hasn't
It's
heard.
BCB time. I got the text.
Yeah, I'm ready.
It's ready. And the bag of onions we're getting into this week, I'm pronouncing it probably onions this week, is it's the Dr. GoodCall.
Oh, what a week that's been thinking about that.
Oh, yeah. The onions drop is going in the shows this week, I'm telling you. Tay, you threw your neck out there with some calls this week.
Whoa, who's Tay?
I don't know.
All
Okay,
right, we'll cut
so
that
it's
one.
Dr. GoodCall for week 16. Welcome into the show.
Whoa. Jeez. Don't give it away, mate. Everyone will be in at my front door. Just asking for advice.
The Good Call Millions, not the Good All Millions. Yeah. We don't want to do that to you, Doctor. Goodness knows your patient load is high enough. You're not taking any new patients at the moment. Goodness, you stuck your neck out there a bit trying to help fantasy owners, and sometimes when you do that, and you introduce an element of risk, not all procedures are 100% risk-free. There is sometimes a little bit of wiggle room for things to not quite go the way that is always planned. And Doctor, this is why you have insurance, right?
Absolutely. Sometimes the patient sneezes back at me and I catch the AIDS. And that's basically what happened this week. As my quarterback didn't even start, I did say there was a slight risk of him being questionable. There was a lot of talk that he was going to play. Then all of a sudden the doctors did not clear him for contact. And from what I've heard since, it sounded like a very good call, especially the fact that he's not even playing this week. So it sounds like the guy was hurting more than he let on. So I had Mike White up against the Lions. I had to take on that awesome matchup he had against the Lions. They're last against quarterback in fantasy. So, I can see why I wanted to do it. in the end. You just can't really do anything when a guy gets ruled out after the podcast.
No, exactly. And we've all had that happen at different times through the year, where either a guy will get ruled out or get hurt on the first drive. And say la vie, such is life, right? And again, this is why you get your public liability insurances, and you get all your, it covers you. And what it means though is like, okay, so you can throw Mike White out, but the problem was that he wasn't the only guy you're relying on from the Jets as well.
It ruined two of my positions, basically.
But you say ruin. I'm not sure that it really completely killed your wide receiver, man. Do you want to tell us a bit about it?
Nah, look, Elijah Moore, to me, has proven, especially the fact that Zach Wilson came in and he still saw a lot of targets, and then he ended up with 9.1 fantasy points in PPR. That's very, very handy, especially for a quarterback like Zach Wilson who just wants to play our mums. He's not really there to actually play NFL. He came out, he had one very, very good play. And in the end, outside of that, he didn't look great. I'd say he looked better than he probably did in his first stint this year, but generally he really wasn't great. And I was taking Elijah Moore on the basis that it would be Mike White. I think Mike White would have made that entire game better for both teams. I just think because Zach Wilson was there being quite mediocre, it basically made the ball on both sides not really need to be thrown that much. And in the end, I think it just made it a very lower scoring game than I think it would have been if Mike White was there.
I agree. I think he brings offense. I think he just brings offense. There was also a couple of rushing yards for Elijah Moore. So I'm going to give you, Doctor, an extra 0.3 and give Elijah Moore 9.4. If that's
bang. Thank you. So generous.
Yeah. Well, there's one thing everyone says on this podcast about Matty is that he is filled with the milk of human kindness and never mean to anybody.
No, never. And me and you never take shots at each other in the or in any messenger groups either.
It's never happened. Never happened. It was only today someone was saying, whoa, check out the fight between Matty and Taylor. And we're like, fight? This is just how we talk.
Me, John.
It was me. I caught some strays. I caught some strays for it.
Yeah, 100%. Poor man, John. He's collateral damage in these.
Yeah, I got some strays.
There's a catch of strays in this argument.
It's like argument.
Yeah, normal conversation between the boys.
Argument? Yeah. That was dumbed down. That was like me and Matty loving each other.
It was practically a loving. We were comparing championships and penises pretty much. I mean, it was, a bit of a pissing contest, that one. But, I mean, it's just super harmless. And Manjot's like, oh, my God.
Yeah, I was just like, what are you guys talking about my fantasy Astro team from this year? You guys can't be, you guys bringing me into this now. Talk about the wankers, you're bringing me into it.
No, you attach yourself to Matty, you're going to catch a lot of strays.
Yeah. I might catch.
That is good advice for life.
At this point, you might have to get fired from the HD commentary team. Sorry, Matty.
It's like attaching yourself to Zach Wilson on Mother's Day.
Every day's Mother's Day.
Dr GoodCall with about, what's the over-under on Zach Wilson jokes from Dr. GoodCall in the last 2 weeks? That's just his go-to.
I think. And I'm only counting that segment, not over the entire stretch of the 4 shows.
No, of course not. Well, that's a different person on the other side.
I know. I'm just saying. The jokes that don't come from Man, John, and I. Big Zach energy.
So I gave a 130-yard guarantee for Isaiah Pacheco up against Houston because, I hadn't stuck my neck out enough on this segment. I do believe he was on the way to something close to that, but he obviously fumbled earlier in the game, and it definitely brought McKinnon into the game a lot more. He ends up with 86 yards. It was 87 yards in the game. So, look, I didn't get what I guaranteed or the shot I took. It was a bit of a bold call.
Oh,
In the end,
I goaded you into that. I'm like, give us a number. Go on, give us a big number. And you're like, 130.
I was pretty keen on him. I just thought the game script was going to be perfect for him. Who knew that the Texans would actually lead in for a lot of this game and be very, very close and take it to overtime. So it actually wasn't the game script I expected for Pacheco. Had a decent game outside the fumble. So look, I wasn't too displeased with it, but in general for that matchup, I think if you had him and you played him in your fantasy playoffs, you probably were left lacking a bit.
Yeah. He would have made you leave feeling a little sad compared to what you thought you were going to get. I don't know, like 87 yards, a catch here or there. It doesn't kill you. But it's not. This was the week where you thought starting Pacheco was really gonna bring home the milk, But look, it doesn't kill you, and along with the Elijah Moore call, probably also doesn't kill you. So I think you saved yourself on them really. Like you're kind of like eating a lettuce sandwich, aren't they? It's like it's food, but you're not enjoying it.
Pacheco, no. Anyway, tight end Greg D up against the worst tight end defense in the league, 2.1. So not exactly pumped about that. It is a tight end landscape, but in the end, he just struggled, obviously, having Rippon there. I didn't think it was going to be too much of a difference between Rippon and Wilson. And to be honest, I probably still haven't seen anything that proves me otherwise. Just the fact that he didn't really supply Dulcich with many targets or just much at all. So, yeah, it was a tough one. I took the shot on a matchup, which is really what I'm trying to do in this tight end situation. And you're really just trying to go through the weeds of shit.
Pretty well, right? Yeah. So, look, when you see something you've seen 100 times, then you diagnose it that way for the 100th time. And I don't think there was anything wrong with what you did there, Doc. I think when you see a guy who's been getting targets go up against a defense that cannot stop that position, you just go, aha!
Look, he scored more than my quarterback, so well done.
Right.
That was me with Hunter Henry this week.
The small victories.
Yeah. Dr GoodCall and Manjot both took some losses at tight end.
Tight end was a tough escape.
Yeah, fuck tight end.
Fuck tight end.
Just get rid of it.
Just fuck tight end.
Just Kelsey or bust.
Everyone start a second kicker. That's what we're saying. Is drop tight ends from your lineups and start second kickers.
All right, next year in Content Team League, we're going second kickers, no tight ends.
And in this segment next year, we're going kickers instead of tight ends. Okay. Pat,
all right,
done.
fine.
And then you can still just pick Kelsey as a flex.
Yeah, sure. I'll put that in.
I don't know. I feel like his ownership puts him outside of the zone.
In this, yes.
In this segment.
All right. So for my fantasy aids, I said no to Gino. And I believe I didn't really set myself a marker for quarterback. I probably would have said around 15 or 16, I think. In the end, in just a regular scoring league, he had 12.8. So I was pretty happy with that. He also had a very, very late touchdown. It was exactly what you expected out of the Niners. They just absolutely squeezed the Seattle offense. They gave him absolutely nothing. And it wasn't until a late drive that Gino really got going at all. So, and he also got so lucky on a pick six. Because I'm sure Manjot will have a lot to say.
That wasn't roughing the passer. My boy,
exactly. There it is.
Defensive player of the year was not roughing the passer. Right,
the body weight rules, fucking balls.
Yeah. Nick Bosa was just making a football play, calls an interception that was returned for a touchdown, and absolutely everyone was just everyone can agree with me because that's not roughing the passer. The refs definitely a new one. Forgot to put that in the pastry segment too.
We glossed right over the referees. Yeah, we gave them some credit for stuff, but we didn't pummel them. We didn't pummel them.
Yeah, so it could have been even worse for Gino, but in the end, I was pretty happy with the call. I definitely saw it as a win because he was a guy that probably a lot of people rode towards the fantasy playoffs. And I think a lot of people probably were forced into playing him. I know Jackal obviously was against me in Astro.
Forced into him.
That's why I was pretty happy with the call. I know it may have seemed like a lot of people would have been worried about him anyway, just with that Niners matchup. But I just thought that was the person to take on because I feel like a lot of people were still going to be playing him. So I was very, very worried about him against that Niners defense, and it came true.
They say dance with the one who brought you generally, right? And I mean, it's funny when you get a guy who costs you nothing, who's never proven to be a reliable fantasy asset. But this year, all of a sudden he did. So, yeah, I can really imagine there would have been a lot of people who might have found it hard to hear your advice and some who would have just found it impossible to follow through with because, for instance, in the league you've referenced here against Jackal, that's a 16-team league. Finding someone you can start in that league if your quarterback, I don't know, dies is just impossible. So let alone trying to find ones just because you're uncomfortable with your matchup. Like his options there were Trubisky. Like what's he going to do? Of course he's going to start Gino. Yeah, and it's not always going to be the right call, but what does he do? It's a playoff. You have to sort of, I guess, live with what you choose. But mate, look, I think I would give you the green light on the Gino, big no to Gino. I think you've got that segment right a lot this year, especially now since you're kind of removing yourself from the curse of having the 1 yard touchdown or the big junk time.
That's what I'm trying to do, Matty. So you see right through me.
Yeah, everything else. I don't think your analysis was wrong on almost any of those weeks, even though the score didn't necessarily always reflect the analysis you put in, because touchdowns are really fluky for running backs. There's not a lot you can do about some of them. And I think now that we've managed to remove that out, it definitely does show that the analysis is really, really right a lot of the time.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
Yeah, we've had some pronunciation things with me today. Like I say onions, and then everyone says onions.
We don't say the I really at all. We say like UN, Y,
onions,
N-S.
Aussie.
I say onions. Onions.
Yeah.
Onions.
UN.
NFL.
So the big bag of onions that we haven't broken into is what's the draft order, mate?
Fantasy.
Yeah, onions. Let's go.
Yeah, Team Onion over here. You've converted me, mate. I'm an onions man now. Speaking of which, I'm just going to post a photo to the group.
Oh no, is it Funyuns?
Are we ready?
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
And
Sounds like you're saying Allianz. The Onions. Onion Stadium. Say it again.
I say onions.
All right, let's see if I can ruin what you just said about me this week and pick some absolute shockers. So I'm pumped for this week. So for Dr GoodCall, the QB will be Mr. Danny Dimes up against the Vikings, who are 26th against quarterback. This team is absolute dog balls at defending anything that's passing. So the only reason they even came back last week was all of a sudden the Colts decided our best option was to run Zach Moss right down the middle for 30 plays in a row. I just think that Dimes is going to be able to move the ball on the Vikings quite easily. I know most of the points for the Colts came from defensive touchdowns, but I just think generally they looked quite comfortable in the first half as well. It wasn't until they basically got a game script where they were shitting their pants, among other people on the Colts, that they actually just didn't really move the ball because they just ran it all the time. I think it's going to be a close game, this one, and I think it's just going to be to and fro, and I don't think there's going to be a game script where they're going to feel the need to run the ball a whole lot. I think even if they do, it could be actually Danny Dimes doing it, which is obviously very handy for him. And again, against that secondary of the Vikings, I just think he could actually torch them. So, look, I just think there's a good opportunity for Danny Dimes to have a very good fantasy day this week.
Yeah.
Man, you got anything to add to that one?
I like it. Danny Dimes, he's been an interesting play recently. Last week I wasn't so optimistic about him, but he played well. He played well, and I've got to give him credit that he's been getting back into form this year. Probably his breakout season, almost breakout season, to be honest, because I think he can still get a bit better in the NFL ranks. But I think there's a possibility that Danny Dimes can be that guy for the Giants. And I think hopefully this week, personally, in the content team league, I have Darius Slayton. So if you're saying Danny Dimes has a big game, maybe Slayton has a big game. We wishing too far here, Doctor.
Mate, you've just floppy foreskin all over the floor, mate.
Oh, okay.
So there might need to be a late change.
All right. Oh, okay.
All right.
Maybe.
All right. Oh, late change.
All right. So you boys know Dr. GoodCall, some of the things that he loves. And one of those things is someone who's on fire. Boom shakalaka. It's Jerick McKinnon up against Seattle, who are 31st against running back. I don't know if you guys like people who are running back one on a week. I don't know if that really gets you going. I know it does for me. How about twice in a row? 2 weeks in a row, he's been running back one on the week. Let's go again, baby, up against Seattle. I can't see why they're not going to do it. I think they're deciding that they're not just going to give Pacheco all the workload, even in the running game. And I just think McKinnon, even when they're in front, they seem to still throw him the ball. That's just the way that they're running the rest of this year. So Mahomes, even when they're in a good game script, still wants to pass. So I just don't see a world where McKinnon's not valuable this week up against the second worst rushing defense in the league for fantasy.
Yeah, same. The 1 week I took him and starts the week 2, he just magically put up like a 13 or something like that. Like he's got to roll. He's got to roll. I mean, the one thing that might slow this down a little bit is that Clyde Edwards-Helaire comes back from IR this week and is eligible to play and is healthy. So I don't know
That's
how much
sonically
it
admitting horse shit.
Yeah. I mean, all that it says to me is that, okay, there's just less snaps that McKinnon's on the field. I like the analysis. I just think, well, maybe this isn't the week he's running back 1.
And what's funny, though, is everyone thought that last week because he had that massive week. And then up against Houston, it didn't project to be a McKinnon game. And then all of a sudden he did it again. I said, I like to stay in the flames of guys like this. I can see a world where it doesn't work out and that it's not a great game, but I also want to take the shot that it's another 30 piece because, for a guy that's basically on waivers or maybe a 45 to 50% rostered guy, I would love to take the opportunity of a guy with that kind of ceiling.
And I just heard a Dr GoodCall, 30-piece guarantee, ding, 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 ding.
No, here we go.
I'm kidding. I've bullied you into doing shit a couple of weeks in a row. And you keep
it's got to come naturally. The funny thing is the only one it did was Thielen, and that's the one it came through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And since then I've been like, what else can I get him to do?
Oh man.
So I gotta stop doing that. I'm having a lot of fun with it though.
Yeah.
Of course you are. All right. I'm gonna make a pivot. And honestly, it wasn't just because of what Manjot said. I actually was thinking about making a pivot anyway. Because I normally stack that bitch up, and we've mentioned Slayton. And to be honest, I've kind of mentioned Slayton in this segment before anyway. So I want to go for someone different, and that's kind of what I want to do in Dr. GoodCall anyway. I'm going to take Jahan Dotson.
Dotson.
And so my only initial worry was that he is up against the Niners. But when you actually look at fantasy, that's the one place you can actually do something because they are 20th against wide receivers, the Niners are. So, look, I expect the Niners to be in front. I expect Heineke to have to pass a lot in the second half. And Dodson has actually been very, very useful when he's been on the field this year. He's had a lot of injury worries, which obviously isn't handy. But when he's actually out there, he has looked very, very good. First round draft pick this year. And I just think there's a world where he can actually have a very, very good game this week, even against that tough Niners D, because I think in the second half, they're going to probably hang back and just not give up a big play. And I just think there's an opportunity there for him to get 10, 15 yards on a few plays.
Man, what point of the game have people been able to get the ball moving against the 49ers? Go.
Garbage time.
Amen.
The fourth quarter.
There it is.
Yeah, that's where you get all the points. And look, he's probably not going to get much points against us in that Christmas game in the first and second quarter, maybe the third quarter even. But in the fourth quarter, when all the starters are resting for the Niners, I think he'd get points. If they're resting, then he'll get a lot of points and he'll be doing well because John Dotson, he has been that guy, hasn't he, guys? I've actually been enjoying him as well. Been watching him the last couple of weeks, and I'm like, oh yeah, this kid's good. He's going to be good. Him and Terry are going to be a good duo one day. They just need consistent quarterback play, and then they've got that. I think Heineke, he's not exactly going to be that guy for them, but he's still good enough that he can get Dotson and McLaurin the ball. So, look, I'm happy for this prediction. I think that's good. Not taking any offense because against the Niners and that great defense, but yeah, I can see what Taylor's point is. Like wide receivers can score against us, especially in garbage time and whatever. So it'll be all good. I think Dotson will have a good game.
Yeah, all G, I reckon, and that's the time he's going to do it. Fourth quarter. It's the only time anyone's been able to do anything against the 49ers for 2 months.
Yeah, exactly.
Is what it is. Just gotta. Sometimes when something happens, and then something happens again, and something happens again, and something happens again, you just gotta start paying attention to
it. Yeah, it's a pattern. That's what they call a pattern or a habit.
Yeah. Doctor, how loose is thy end this week?
Thy end is just pouring out your tight end.
Oh, got a
It's
bleeder.
a funny one. Well, the initial guy I looked at is another one almost similar to Slayton, where I feel like I've brought him up, and I decided to dig a bit deeper in tight end this week. There's actually three guys. Actually, sorry, one I've brought up before. There's two
Yeah.
that I haven't. So I'm going to look towards those guys. And one had a pretty decent matchup at tight end, but I'm going to actually bypass him too because I kind of want this guy to get some credit because he's gone under the radar in tight end all year this year. And I think he's actually at about tight end 8 or 9, which doesn't really take that much because we know how shit the position is. But he actually had 2 touchdowns last week, and he's actually had a fair few touchdowns without it being recognised. It's Juwan Johnson for the Saints, and it isn't an amazing matchup against Cleveland because they're 8th against tight end, and I think because they're starting to realise that Watson, or who shall not be named, isn't really killing it. Their defense has actually got better. And I think the over-under they put up is like 33 points in this game. So it's like the lowest in 10 years in any game. So they're expecting a low-scoring game. And to be honest, it probably will be. But I just think this guy deserves credit. He's actually been really, really useful in the tight end position this year. And I don't think really anyone's even thought about starting him or, if anyone's picked him up, they might have dropped him because he had like a, not so great game the week after they got him or something. But overall, he's actually had a pretty good season. And I just thought he deserved a shout out in a Dr. GoodCall. So I think if he's as good a chance as any as getting a touchdown, even in a low scoring game. They don't have huge amount of weapons at the moment. So, I think there's an opportunity for him.
Yeah, I agree. I like that. I like that call. I mean, they're saying on sleepers 7 in standard leagues and 9 in tight end, 9 in PPR. So there you go. He's been pretty consistent. Last few weeks, he's had a few good games. His last few games. I mean, he's missed a few because of injury, like Tampa game. But apart from that, he's had like a 12 or 15 or 13. And then he has 0 against the Niners, which everyone has a 0 against the Niners.
And even that, he dropped a stone cold one on the goal line or something. I remember
that was the Fred Warner batted that one away. I remember that.
It was a chance.
It was a good chance. It was a good chance. And then he dropped the 22 last week against Atlanta of all teams. So this kid is looking good. I'm enjoying watching Juwan Johnson. I've been noticing him a bit too. Might come up with my starts of the week research as well. But,
there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I got a quick question about Juwan Johnson. Manjo, how many leagues are you
in? 11. That's right. I'm in 11.
Taylor, how many leagues are you in?
9.
I'm in 12. So together, we've got somewhere in the range of 30 odd leagues. How many shares of Juwan Johnson do we have altogether?
0.
Put up how many fingers for how many you've got.
0.
Taylor?
Yes, that's a definite 0 from me.
We have 30 leagues, and not one of us has a share in him. That's sticking your neck out. And that also tells you.
I might be wrong there. I know I picked him up in Kelly Cup in my brother's league, but I just had an absolute dog shit year in that league. I just couldn't. I was just streaming every single week. I think I ended up with him at some stage, but I don't even know if I kept him in the end.
Yeah. Only Saints fans have him. Only Saints fans have got him. He's 19% rostered in leagues and 6% started. So that's definitely the Saints fans. Only they got him. So Juwan Johnson. He might be the tight end that we've all been looking for. He could be that guy. Dr. GoodCall could be on the money here.
Yes, but not Taylor. Taylor is never on the money, but Dr. GoodCall.
There you go.
Get that name out of your mouth.
Get that name out your mouth.
Yeah.
I love this show.
Speaking of things you should keep out of your mouth, the AIDS player.
Yes, okay.
No. Yeah.
So, I'm pouring some water on this Jags love fest.
Yep.
I'm taking Christian Kirk up against the Jets.
Yes,
thank God. Wide receiver. I think, like I mentioned last week, Zach Wilson playing over Mike White has an effect on the offense of both teams. Wide receivers have struggled against this Jets team all season, and I don't see this being a particularly high-scoring game. I'm going to go through some wide receiver ones on teams and how they went against the Jets this
Oh,
year.
I love when you do this.
Ooh.
Stephon Diggs, 3 for 37. Justin Jefferson, 7 for 45. Tyreek Hill, 7 for 47. This team has shut down wide receiver ones for fun this year, and I think it happens again.
Oh, okay. I like it. I like it though because I have Zay Jones starting. So
There you go.
secretly I like this. Secretly I'm liking this. But yeah, I was a bit disappointed in Diggs' returns against the Jets. He had 14.3 and then the 6.7 you just mentioned, the 3 for 37, the 6.7 in our PPR leagues. Yeah, Diggs. Yeah, he's had a few bad returns and that sort of thing. But yeah, only bad games he's really had has been against the Jets. So there you go. The Jets, they do a phenomenal job against number one wide receivers because Sauce Gardner, defensive rookie of the year for sure, 100%.
Couldn't agree more. And I think like that's the thing, isn't it? Just for a rookie, he is playing out of his mind. He really belongs in the NFL. And he gets seasoned players who've been terrific against all comers. And he just belts them. I just love it. I don't know. It's kind of like he's the funnest player in the AFC for me to cheer for who's not on my team. I don't know. I find him easy to cheer for.
Oh, you'd hate him this week though.
Yeah, well, even then, I mean, if he has a good game, it's hard to be like, oh yeah, you were shit. No, he had a good game. Like, so I imagine he probably will. The other guy in the AFC who I was talking about loving to sort of cheer for is a bit of a kind of looks like the underdog is Greg Dulcich for the Denver Broncos, but I think it's just kind of like I just came off the beach haircut. Sauce not carrying that that kind of aura. He's all business, Sauce. So we'll see how that goes. But I like the analysis behind it because I think that's what you look for, right? You go right. Terrific passing offense. This is a team who've got 80 odd points more than every other team in their division. And the first place you go to is, well, who's your number one wide receiver? Oh, now that goes up against this guy who's been locking people down all year. I love the call. I hope it doesn't come off, but I think the call is smart, really fucking smart.
But it's one of those games where, like, Kirk could have a really shit game, but then the Jays could still win. Like, and I don't know exactly what you're getting. Well, I do know what you're going to get as Zach Wilson. It's going to be shit and mum slaying, but it's not going to be a lot of points. So, like, the Jags could easily win this 17-14 or something like that without Kirk really having a huge game. Like you said, Zay Jones, or they could run the ball on the Jets. Like, it could be a big ETN game. Like, they can still easily eke this game out in a low-scoring game without Kirk. So, it doesn't 100% mean they lose if Kirk has an off game.
Oh, that's true. Do you want my killer fact about the Jags?
Oh, it's going to be fantastic.
Right? They're on the verge of doing something that Doug Peterson's offenses couldn't do when he was the offensive coordinator in Kansas City or the head coach of the Eagles. He's on the verge of having a player on his roster that's got 1,000 yards receiving and a player on the same roster the same year with 1,000 yards rushing. ETN is 83 yards away, considering he barely played in the first month. And then you got Kirk, who is, wait for it, 34 yards away.
Well, there you go.
It tells you a little bit about how this offense is worked out, and that even though these guys haven't been there for every game, the volume's there. Trevor's getting it done. The offense is getting it done somehow.
Yeah, I can't wait till Matty goes for his content team lineup and realizes who he's benched after he's mentioned him. But yeah, you have him on your bench, but I know you're going to replace him before the game starts anyway. It's ETN. But yeah, hopefully.
That was in retaliation to last week. I'm like, yeah, last week was probably not a good ETN game. And it was okay, but I don't regret it. I still won.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right. Well, that comes to the end for Dr. GoodCall for the week.
Let's go to the recap here. Go through your good call lineup for us and the big fantasy aids call.
So, Danny Dimes, my quarterback this week, like I said, up against that tertiary, I think I'm calling him, at the Vikings. They just can't stop anything.
Yeah.
My boy Jerick McKinnon, who's on fire. We love a boom shakalaka. So Jerick McKinnon trying to go for 3 straight running back ones this week up against Seattle, who are second last against the running back position. in fantasy. The pivot to Jahan Dotson at wide receiver up against the Niners. Like I said, I feel like that's the one place they could actually leak any points in that defense. And then I took John Johnson. I just felt like he deserved a bit of love up against Cleveland.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And of course, then you've got your fantasy AIDS candidate who doesn't make me so happy that you've picked him, but I get it and I like the call.
I'm not here to make you happy, Matty. We all know that.
I know, Doctor. I know.
Yeah.
The amount of things you've diagnosed me with over the years.
So much worse than AIDS.
True.
Yeah.
And your AIDS candidate, brother?
Yep, Christian Kirk up against that second best in the league defense on wide receiver. And like I said, I just think in general it's not going to be a very high scoring game, as most games aren't at New York Jets their field. That's just the way they like to play, and especially with Zach Wilson, they're going to have to really, really be on song defensively because they know they aren't going to get a lot of points.
100%. Well, look, that is our Dr. GoodCall segment done for the week. Of course, our first show of the week is the Pastry Performers, and you can find that out now to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, on the YouTube, and you can find it everything that we do through our Linktree, Aussie NFL Fantasy. And once you get to the Linktree page, you find Manjot as well at the Pastry Press NFL through that same Linktree, but also on Instagram at Pastry Press NFL. And of course, you can find Taylor at him at Taylor41 because he is very close to the doctor. And sorry, doctor, I know you don't give out your home address, but Taylor takes all your mail. So very good. So at him about all the horrific calls.
Fling that shit.
Guys, we're going to be back for show 3 of the week. I'm going to torture you very quickly with some fantasy games before we go after the start of the week.
Yeah. Also, by the way, I was just thinking about it.
Yeah.
So you're calling a secondary that's trash a tertiary. Should it be a primary?
I've been thinking about that.
No, because I've downgraded it.
Wait, so a primary school? Oh, because I was thinking of a tertiary school is better than a secondary school is better than primary school. So, but then a primary target's better than a secondary target that's better than a tertiary target. Okay,
I thought tertiary was the step down. I thought it was third.
No, a tertiary is like a university, right? A primary school, and there's secondary. That's what we're talking about, in school ways.
School, college,
high school and college is secondary.
What's the word for past secondary then? Tertiary, is there a word?
It's the right word, but I think what Taylor's doing here,
it's the order.
Is he's saying a front is your primary, and then a secondary is the guys who are defending the passes. But these guys are so bad, they might as well be in the fucking crowd. So they're tertiary.
Okay. Yeah, no.
Proximity to the ball, I think he's saying.
Yeah, okay. Proximity that way. Yeah, okay. Yeah, because that makes sense.
How'd I go, Doctor?
That makes sense.
Did well.
No, it made sense.
To be fair, I didn't even know how to really explain it myself. I knew what was in my head, but I didn't know how to get the words out.
But man, John, if you had to name this, why are you naming it primary? Give us the rationale. Come on.
Okay, so I was thinking in terms of school, right? Like a tertiary school, for example,
higher education.
Uni, TAFE, uni, all that. That's tertiary. And then secondary is high school, college, and then primary is primary school. So I was thinking a secondary, they might as well be playing primary school kids. So that's why I would have said primary. I thought
with that in mind,
it sounds too good though. It makes it seem like they're up front and they're the first,
And then when I started thinking about it, when I started thinking about it, I was like, oh yeah, the primary target in offense, and then the secondary target, and then the tertiary target would be the third one. So then you'd push it back. So I was like, oh yeah, that way it makes sense. So
I just when I came up with it, it meant nothing in my mind. It was just the first word that came to my head, and now I just say it every time.
If you were going to go the other way, they mentioned, I reckon you're actually stopping a step too far away, and that instead of calling them a primary, you just go, well, the kindergartens.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you? Because then you go, primary sounds good. What's before that? Oh, fucking toddlers licking each other and making shit out of Play-Doh and doing finger painting. That is the Vikings. But that is their shell right there. Mate, I reckon you and I could terrorize them for 100 yards each. What do you reckon?
Yeah, easily, man. Easily.
Give us Pistol Pete Ryan throwing us the ball, man. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I reckon he'll be free this weekend. So you and I should try and hit him up.
Yeah, we should.
Can't stop the
He'll be
pistol.
He'll be out of town for Christmas, smart man. Hey guys, let's get out of here for show 2 for the week. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Manjot. We'll be back for show 3, and by the magic of radio, it'll take a day. But for us guys, we'll be back in like 35 seconds. Yeah.
Adios.
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 This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
When I was playing basketball, I think it was like under 18s. There was this guy that was he was basically doing an article on this tournament that I was playing in, and he had me in the All-Star 5 and as the MVP, and he called me the Mack Truck.
I love that.
Aussie,
And I need you all to use that once this week. Not here to fuck spiders.
Tweet to Taylor about how you got fired.
NFL,
Yeah, I don't know what you're saying. He's just talking nothing.
To be honest, I don't think most of the time you know what you're saying, Taylor. So fair enough.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
Fantasy.
I reckon you'd make an excellent running back.
Yeah, I'd be the fridge, I think.
I'm going to be honest. Yes, I am. I want to beat Taylor.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
Yeah, if I'm coaching, I'm plowing Taylor through. That big boy has to go straight through the tackles.
I run into them and knock their ass over, Matthew.